go. 1 second. Hello, everyone. All right, we're live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the last Q&A of 2025. Hopefully, you guys had a great year. Ours is pretty great as a barbershop. Welcome, everyone. So the format that I used the last time we did a Q&A, I think worked out pretty well. At least nobody complained about it. Basically, the plan is I'm going to randomly answer questions from you guys. At some point during this call, I'm going to do a live YouTube recording. And then probably answer some questions at the end. And then my throat's going to dry up and I'm going to end the call. I was going to cancel today, but I canceled last week. So I figured we would do it, even though my throat hurts like hell. So appreciate you guys hopping on. Before we get into the Q&A, if you are watching this on YouTube, which is the best way to watch these calls, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because it lets me know that you guys are getting value out of this and lets me know that you want to see more stuff like this. So if you guys want me to keep doing these calls, that's all I'm going to ask of you to do. Just hit subscribe on YouTube. It lets me know that you guys like this stuff and that you want me to keep doing it. It's a free way that you guys can help me out. I also have a free barber community called the Barber Mastermind. You guys don't have to join it, but if you want to get access to all the courses and things that I reference during these calls sometimes, then that's where all my courses are. And most of them you can unlock for free just by interacting with other people in the group. You earn points every time somebody likes your post or your comment. And then the more points you earn, the more courses you unlock. So it's actually 100% free to join. It's called skool.com/barbers. That's the link to the community. And it's in my bio wherever you're watching this. So now that that's out of the way, let's see what we got on the agenda for today. So last week we did not do a Q&A. Trying to think about what's changed. We're wrapping up the year. It's been a great year for us at the barbershop. I've heard mixed things from different people. That's the benefit of being in my community as well, as you get to interact with barbers, well, really all over the world. We're primarily concentrated in the United States. So if you're in the United States and you're a barber or a barbershop owner, you should absolutely be inside my free Barber Mastermind community. But it's cool because you get to see what other people are. Some people have said it was a great year for them. Some people said it wasn't. But that's normal, you know. As long as you're making progress, you're gonna have good years, bad years. We've certainly had ours, but this ended up being a good year for us, and I think that next year is gonna be even better. So hopefully you guys had a great year. We got some big plans, big plans for next year to expand the shop, expand the team, and then set up the business in a way so we can actually open another location. Probably not going to happen next year. If it can, great, but I doubt it. You know, we got so much work to do. I did some math. The shops, according to my math, are like at 40% of their potential, which is like crazy, because we have a $1 million business right now. And to think that like we're doing less than half of what we could do is just exciting for me. So that's why I'm not even gonna think about opening a third location until we're like, I don't know, 60%, 70, 80% of the way there. We'll be well over 2 million at that point. So, and I might get to that point and decide why put myself through the stress, you know. We'll be making probably $500,000 in profit per year at $2 million. Life might be good at that point. I might just be like, you know what? Let's just maintain this. So I'm just warning you guys right now. I might change my mind, but as of right now, I don't see that happening. We're absolutely going to open a third location, and we're going to build this thing until one day somebody comes along and buys it from us for a ton of money, and then I'll probably just focus on making more content for you guys at that point. But that's probably like 10 or 20 years away. Um, got a lot of work to do. But I don't think it makes sense to expand if you got plenty of room to grow. You're just like adding. You're just trying to feed your ego at that point. You know, instead of expanding, we expend in time, more offers, more. Yeah, I mean, there's ways that you can. There's a book that I read. I don't think it's behind me. It's called Acres of Diamonds. It's actually a shorter book, but the idea was like this guy sold his farm. I think he was living in Africa. I think it's a true story too. He was living in Africa. He owned a farm, and he heard about people finding diamonds in another part of Africa. So he sold his farm and then went to go search for diamonds. He ended up never finding any diamonds, and then he ended up dying poor and broke. And then the person that bought his farm ended up discovering that it was like the largest diamond mine in history or something like that. So I think about that story whenever I'm tempted to open another location. Not that it's a bad thing, but I think that the first step is like, you know, get the first one or the first few to like their maximum potential before you do that. There's nothing wrong with expanding, but you can do it, I think, too early. You know, I don't know if I've ever heard of a business that grew too late. Usually the mistakes come from rushing, trying to feed your ego, and doing things too early before you're ready, before your business is ready, before you have the right amount of money, the right amount of systems, the right amount of people. There's a saying I like, which is that mistakes love a rush decision. So if you want to make mistakes, a great way to do it is to rush. So I've had to learn that the hard way. Opening our second almost put us out of business. So that's why I do this content for you guys, so that you guys can learn from my mistakes and not have to go through the same pain that I went through. But we are going to grow. We are going to open more, but I don't think it makes sense unless you have a solid foundation to build on. So, yeah. What's the harm? What's the harm in waiting? You know, you're just going to be like really profitable. The only thing I say, well, that adds pressure to want to expand, is that I do want to promote people on my team. So that's really the only thing that's driving the urge, I think, to open faster, open locations faster, so that we can elevate people on our team to, you know, promote them from barber to assistant manager to from assistant manager to manager, so they're running their own shop. So without expanding, it's kind of hard to do that. You know, somebody would have to leave in order for that spot to become available. So, you know, and we want to be able to create other positions that have nothing to do with cutting hair. You know, because as a barber, one day you're not going to be able to cut hair anymore. And then it's like, then what? You know, if you're working at a small shop where there's no room to grow, that's it. Your only choice is to like stop cutting hair and to like do something else. Where if you're working at a shop that's growing, that has, you know, multiple locations and opening more, then you actually have, there's other stuff you can do besides cut hair to help grow the business. You know, you can help manage. That's the easy one, right? But you can also help train. You can help with marketing. There's a lot. There's recruiting. I mean, a growing business is absolutely going to need help with training and recruiting. So one day in the future, if you guys can't cut hair anymore, one of the easiest things that you can do to add value to the business is managing or training. Marketing is also useful, but you know, I don't know that we need help marketing in terms of my business. Like I think we're doing okay there. What we actually need help with is probably the management side, like just getting people to perform at the highest level. Training is going to be something that continues to become more and more important. So those are the things that I would say the first probably roles that will be created in our shop that have nothing to do with cutting hair. It's like training and managing. I mean, those already exist. It's just that multiple people are doing that right now. Just in the future, that'll probably be all this person does. It's like all they do is train. All they do is manage, you know? Yeah, operating as a team is the way. That's one of our values, is teamwork. I've worked at shops that were very competitive. Well, I've only worked at one shop, to be clear, but it was a great shop. But it was very competitive too. It was not like you take turns and oh, you didn't cut any hair today. You go ahead and grab that. No, it was like cutthroat. So that was one thing. Although I loved working there, that was one thing I really didn't want in my shop was every man for himself type of situation. So we that's been a core value of mine since day one. It's like I want people to enjoy coming to work. You don't have to worry about if I go to the bathroom, somebody's gonna take that walk in from me. Like no. It's like when you come back, it'll be ready for you. So I think that's really important. And you're feel free to run your shop the way you want, but that's the way I run mine. Is I want people to feel comfortable or happy to go to work. I want to work as a team. We sweep each other's hair. We take turns answering the phone. We take turns checking out each other's clients. I mean, we take appointments off each other's schedules if we're running behind. I mean, it's actually been hard to do this, but somehow we were able to get all the barbers on our team to be okay with not making their client feel like shit if they sit in somebody else's chair. And so that's just been like years and years of effort of like me just putting it in the barber's head that like it doesn't matter who they come back to, as long as they come back here, they're helping to grow the business, even if it's not sitting in your chair. Because if you make that client feel like shit the second they sit in somebody else's chair, the next time you're busy, they're just not going to come back, and they're going to go help build somebody else's barbershop. And I actually learned that from looking at our data. So our software has this really cool ability to create segments from our customers. So one day I got curious and I was just like, what do all the people that have been coming here to our shop for the longest time have in common? So a lot of the biggest breakthroughs that I've had have come from just curiosity based questions like that. So I sat down one day and I figured it, and I exported a list of like all of the clients that have spent the most money that have been coming to us for years, because I wanted to see what they had in common. And I think there was like 4 things, but the number one thing that all of them had in common, literally 100%, was that they had all been to more than one barber. All of them. So when I saw that, I immediately started telling the team, like, don't make clients feel like shit for going to another barber. Like, they're going to come back if you make them feel comfortable with that. And since we started doing that, like, our retention has improved. Like, everything has improved. Like, if you work as a team and you let the clients feel comfortable going to whoever they want, then they're more likely to come back when you guys are busy, right? So there's a couple other things they had in common too, like memberships. This is why I'm a big believer in memberships, because a lot of the people that were on that list that have been coming to us the longest had a membership with us. So that's why we went even harder on the memberships. Another thing was product sales. So believe it or not, if you get a client to buy a product that actually helps them, that can actually help with retention. Some people might not believe me when I say that, but that's what our data says. So that's at least true for my shop. All right, guys. So I think that today I would like to talk to you guys about the 3 types of barbershops. Would you guys like to hear about that? There's basically like 3. There's more than 3. But for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna simplify it into 3 types of barbershops that I think exist, and then why it matters, and how it can help you kind of determine how to run your business. I think this will also be helpful for some reason, like potential clients watch this video, because I think clients are sometimes a little unreasonable in their demands, as you barbers know, because everybody just wants to get the most for their money, right? And there's a lot of conversation right now about barber haircut prices and how things have got inflated. So I think that this video might help with that. And then I think we'll make a video in the future of, my opinion on why haircut prices have increased. Why do you guys think haircut prices have increased, though? I'm curious. I did share a graphic on my social media that explains why, but if you guys aren't following me, then you'll have to wait for the video. It's on my Instagram, Alex J the Barber. All right, let me just make this video for you guys, and then we'll get into the Q&A. We'll get into the Q&A after, okay? Okay, so starting, let me get this little bit of water here. All right, ready? Let's go. All right, so today I wanted to talk to you guys about the 3 different types of barbershops that exist. There's really more than 3, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to simplify it into 3. And then I'm also going to break down why I think you should know this and how it's going to help you run your business better. So what are the 3 types of barbershops? There's basically, I'm going to actually break it down by volume, okay? So, but there's different ways you can think about this. First is high volume, right? So these are the chain places. These are the walk-in places. They're typically going to be low price, low time, and they're typically doing about 10-20 minute haircuts max. So that's about 3 to 4 haircuts per hour. Typically they're either going to be a walk-in based place or a check-in based model where you check in ahead of time. And so I would put these types of barbershops in kind of the budget / standard category, right? So these are going to be on the low end of the price scale. And if you guys are looking at my screen, this is what I'm talking about. So as you can see here, this is a price pyramid. And if you're a low volume type of barbershop or standard, then you're probably going to be somewhere in this price range. So somewhere between $0 and $40. And this is actually going to appeal to a majority of the market. So I think this is why many of the biggest companies in the world that in our industry are in this price range, right? So that should come as no surprise to you that the reason why some of these companies get so big is because they're appealing to a very, very big market. I think like Sport Clips did like $2 billion with a B in revenue last year. Most of the chain places that you've seen, Great Clips, Supercuts, they're going to be these low price, low time, high volume types of places. And the reason I classify it by volume is because we're a barbershop. We're in a service business. We sell time. So if you are not spending a lot of time on a haircut, then you can charge a lot less. If you spend more time on a haircut, then you have to charge more. The next category of barbershops that I see is kind of a medium volume or mid-tier type of barbershop. So typically these barbershops are spending usually between 20 to 30 minutes on a haircut, which works out to be about 2 to 3 haircuts per hour. And these places are usually either walk-in based or appointment based. Some places might look at these barbershops as more premium or upscale. If we look at our price pyramid here, these places are going to be right here in the middle. So they're going to be probably somewhere, and we're talking about US prices. And if you're watching this 10 years from now, then these numbers might be different. But like this is about the price range you could expect to see a premium type of barbershop. So somewhere between $40 to $60. And that's in the US. And that's for a regular men's haircut on average, right? Some places might call themselves premium or whatever. But if they're charging less, then I would put them in this category, Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But these places are spending, what's important is the amount of time that you're spending on a haircut, because that directly influences the revenue, which we'll get into in a second, right? And then the last place is what I would consider kind of a low volume, high priced type of barbershop. These places are specialized. They're luxury, right? They're on the high end of the price scale. And typically, these types of barbershops are spending usually between 45 to 60 minutes or more on a haircut, which means they can only do to one, maybe 1.5 haircuts per hour. So if they're spending 45 minutes on a haircut, then they can do 1.5 haircuts per hour max, right? And usually these places, because they're appealing to a high-end clientele, the people that value their time, that are willing to spend more, these places are almost always on the high end of the price scale. Usually we're talking like $60 plus, or getting into the $80 or even $100 or more. If you see a barbershop charging that much, typically they're a low volume type of barbershop. At least that's what I would expect, right? If I was spending $100 on a haircut, I would expect that you would take more time on it, right? And this is why this is important, because this is why the math. This is why people need to understand the math when it comes to how to price their services. By the way, I have a whole course on how to price services in my free community. It's skool.com/barbers. The link to that is wherever you're watching this. But here's one of the points that I cover in that course. Let's say, for example, your barbershop needs to make $100 an hour in revenue, right? If you're a high volume shop, which means you're doing about 4 haircuts an hour or 15 minutes, you're spending 15 minutes on a haircut, then you can make $100 an hour charging $25 for a haircut. Right? 25 times 4 is $100. If you are spending 10 minutes on a haircut, then you can do, six haircuts an hour, right? So it's really important that you guys understand how much time you want to spend on the haircut to determine your pricing. Well, the first thing you need to know is how much you need to run your business and make a profit. Once you have that number, everything else is pretty simple after that. This is exactly what we did to come up with our prices, by the way. We took what do we need to generate per hour. This is the non-negotiable. Like, this is what we absolutely have to make per hour to run our business and have a little bit of profit. And then it's just like, okay, how long do you want to spend on a haircut? If we want to spend, if at my shop, if we did 15-minute haircuts, then my haircut price would be $25 because we're shooting for $100 an hour. But we don't do 15-minute haircuts. We do 30-minute haircuts. So that means we would have to charge $50 an hour. So in a medium volume shop, if you need to make $100 an hour in revenue and you only want to do 2 haircuts an hour, then that means your price needs to be $50, because 50 times 2 is 100. Or if you want to spend a little less time on a haircut and you want so that you can bring the price down, then you can do 20-minute haircuts, which we used to do that. We used to do 20-minute haircuts. And then you can charge $33 an hour, or $33 for a haircut, right? Because 3 haircuts times 33 would equal $100. And then finally, if you need to make $100 an hour, like in this example, you can do that at a low volume shop by doing 1 haircut an hour and just charging $100 for that, right? The math is pretty simple there. Or you can do 45-minute haircut and charge $75, right? And if you do 1.5 haircuts per hour, you're at your $100 an hour. So this is how you can immediately identify, I think, by looking at a shop's prices, how much time they're about to spend on your haircut. Don't go, if you're a client watching this, like, don't go into a walk-in place that charges $10 for a haircut and then be upset that they only spent 10 minutes on your hair. That's the way that business model works. You're not going to get a luxury 45-minute an hour-long service with the best fade you've ever gotten when the place only spends 10 minutes on your hair and only charges $10. That doesn't work. You're in the wrong type of barbershop. You need to go to, if you want a better haircut, if you want the barber to spend more time, then you have to go somewhere where they charge more. Period. Is there going to be exceptions to that? Absolutely, because there's going to be people that are starting out that lower their price so that they can appeal to more people, but eventually those people are going to get busy and they're going to want to raise their prices, and then just like we did, like I started at $16, but I was spending 15 minutes on the haircut. Now we charge 45 and we spend 30. So because we added time to the service so that our price had to go up. Okay? So if you're a client looking for a barber and you want a certain type of service, then you have to be okay with the price that comes along with that. So I think the problem also happens on the barber side, where barbers want to charge these luxury prices, $100 plus for a haircut, but they're giving the quality and the experience of a low volume or medium volume type of barbershop. That doesn't make sense. Like if you want to charge $100 for a haircut, there's nothing wrong with that. But just know that there's two things that come with that. The expectations from the clients are going to be insane, right? And then you better deliver on that, because if somebody pays you $100 for a haircut and you give them a 15-minute shitty fade, they're not going to come back. I see barbers all the time on Instagram, on social media, bragging about how much they charge for haircuts. And then I go to the booking link and I can book anytime I want. I could walk in and they would be available. So you guys have to be able to match the price with the volume. Okay. So what are some of the pros and cons of each model? So a high volume shop, right? Like your supercuts, your sport clips, your great clips, like these are going to appeal to the greatest population, like the greatest, what's called the total addressable market for this is insane. Like basically everybody can afford your services if you're charging, under $20 for a haircut. The problem with doing so this, in terms of like the market size, like if you're just starting out, if you're a new barber or if you're a brand new barbershop, you may want to consider starting on the low end, because it appeals to everybody, right? Like I did this too. I didn't know this back then, but in 2015 when I started my shop, I mean, I was charging $16, and that was cheap even back then, right? So I grew really fast. I mean, I was also pretty good, so I could give a really good haircut in 15 minutes and only charge $16 for it. So if you're a barber that's just starting out, or if you're just opening your barbershop and you want to appeal to the greatest amount of people, then my argument, always do the math first to make sure it makes sense for your business. But my argument would be start as low as you can possibly go, right? So that you can just get people in the door. And then as you get busier and you want to, this is exactly what I did too. As I started to get busier, I realized like, I want to be different. I don't want to be like a Great Clips or just another rebranded Sport Clips. So we started spending more time on the haircut. We went from 15 minutes to 20, and went from 20 to 25, and now we're at 30. And we even have a 45-minute haircut option, right? Which I'll get into some advanced stuff in a second, right? But yeah, so I would say start low. You could always raise it, right? But some barbers fresh out of school see these people on social media charging $100 an hour. And I think right now the state of the barbering industry is a lot like real estate was like 20, 30 years ago, where you got all these real estate gurus out there selling these courses saying that you can be, passive income millionaire overnight. All you need to do is buy my $5,000 course and then you'll have all the secrets. The reality just doesn't work that way. Like there's what does this graphic say? 75% of people in the United States do not want to pay, 75% of men do not want to pay more than $40 for a haircut. So if you're charging more than 40, you have to be okay with the fact that you're appealing to a very small percentage of people. Not to say that you can't do it. There's people out there charging we charge more than 40, but if you're just getting started, my argument would be go after the biggest market, and then you can always specialize later, right? That's at least what I did. Okay. So one of the that's a pro for going the high volume route. But the problem with that is that it is very difficult. It is very difficult to find barbers that can cut that fast, right? I was doing 15-minute haircuts. And the only way the business works at that price is if everybody in the shop is doing 15-minute haircuts. So standard wise, it is very difficult to find barbers that can actually cut that fast and do a good haircut. And that also can lead to burnout, right? Because if you're working, 10 hours and you're doing 15-minute haircuts, I think my record for the most haircuts I ever did in one day was 31 haircuts. So that was a 10-hour day. I didn't take any lunch. I was doing 15-minute haircuts. And I think I went to the bathroom like once, like all day. 31 haircuts. So I could do it, right? But I can just saying that if you're a barbershop owner and you want to go this high volume route where you're spending 10, 15 minutes on a haircut so that you can have a lower price, that can work. But the problem is going to be like finding barbers that can cut that fast. Probably going to be a little harder, right? And then you're not going to be, this is not even something that's on here, but it's something that I thought about, is you're not really going to be able to pay that well if you're charging on the low end of the price scale, unless you're like crazy busy, right? But if you think about it, like even if you're charging $20, you're not going to be able to pay as well as maybe a shop that can charge more, and give their barbers a bigger cut of that. So it's just something to think about. Now, the medium volume type of shops, these are like the more premium, that's upscale. Some of the pros and cons of that, it's a growing market. A lot of millennials, people that are professionals are happy to spend more on their appearance. I think men's grooming is becoming more popular, right? It's okay as a man now to spend more money on yourself. But this is also like a really competitive market. I think it's probably the fastest growing segment of these three different types of business models is the people that are trying to go more upscale, more premium, because there's already a ton of big players in the space of like low volume, high turnover, cheap, quick cuts, right? So I think a lot of people, including myself, recognize that, and I just don't want to play that game, right? I want to be in a whole different ocean. Right, there's a good book that I read called Blue Ocean Strategy, right? So if you're trying to play in the high volume game, yes, there's a huge market for that, but it's also a red ocean. There's lots of blood in the water. Like lots of people are doing that and doing that really well. You're not going to beat great clips at being great clips. You're not going to beat sport clips at being sport clips. So the only way you can really compete is you got to be better, right? You have to provide a better experience than them. And in a lot of cases, that's going to be, meaning that you have to charge more. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of this rise of premium upscale barbershops, including mine, because I don't want to play that game of being in the quick cuts business. So we're going to go over here where there's a little bit less competition. Right? And I think now also you're starting to see a rise in the low volume type of shops where these barbers are spending an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes more on your hair, but they're going to charge you for it, And there's nothing wrong with either one of these models, by the way. I think they can all work, and there is an example of somebody out there that is doing any one of these, and they're very successful. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm skewing one way or the other. I'm definitely more of a medium, like premium upscale type of shop. But if you want to go the low volume route, like kind of what's popular right now on social media, where you go in the shop and do 3 haircuts and then you're done for the day, nothing wrong with that. But just know that one of the cons that comes with that is that a percentage of people that can afford your services is going to be the smallest, right? So you got to be, I think, really good at marketing. getting your name out there, because most people don't want to pay that much for a haircut. So you basically have to be really good at convincing them that you're worth it. And then once they do come in and give you a shot, you got to over deliver on that, right? Because otherwise it's like they can go get the same haircut for half the price down the street, right? But one of the pros of that is that you don't need as many clients to make the same amount of money. Like, you can do one haircut, charge $100, and you made the same as the guy working at Great Clips, and they had to do 4 haircuts to make the same amount of money. So pros and cons, right? But I do think that you can do both, or all 3, which I'll get into in a second. But so this is why this matters, okay? So I explained to you now the 3 different types of barbershops. There's the high volume, the medium volume, and the low volume. Or you can also think about it as budget, standard, premium, or like specialized / luxury, okay? So why does this matter? If you're a barber and you're looking for a job, don't work at a barbershop if you can't meet the time standard, okay? Like, if you love doing 1-hour haircuts, don't go apply to work at a shop where the time standard is 15 minutes, unless you're willing to adapt to that standard. But some barbers will come to the barbershop. They come from a place where they were doing hour and a half long haircuts, and we're like, it's 30 minutes here. And they're like, I can't do that in 30 minutes. Well, like, that's how it is here. This is the time standard. Our business literally does not work if you can't do that. So as a barber, if you're looking for a place to work, keep that in mind. What is the haircut timing? If you can't do that and you're not willing to, don't even apply there, because you're not going to make it. You're either going to quit or you're going to get fired, because it doesn't make sense for that barbershop owner to keep you there. You're not making enough money for the business. Go work at a place where it's okay to take 45 minutes, an hour, right? And hopefully that barbershop owner did the math in my pricing course and is charging appropriately. Like, it doesn't matter. This is a point that I think is really important. It doesn't really matter how long you want to take on a haircut, as long as you're charging for the time. It doesn't make sense if your business needs $100 in revenue per hour and you're charging $50 and you're spending an hour on a haircut, you're making half of what your business needs. The barbers are making half of what your business needs. They're literally probably losing you money. Doesn't make sense to keep the barbers there as a barbershop owner. And if you're a barber, it doesn't make sense to work there, because you're probably not going to reach your full earning potential either, right? You could probably go make a lot more, go work at a shop where they do charge on the higher end of the price spectrum, and then you can spend all day on the haircut, right? And then you'll get good money for that. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a job. Like, unless you want to get better, right? Like, if you want to learn how to cut faster, if you want to lower your haircut times, then go to and just realize that this is it's going to take time, right? It's not going to happen overnight, but you will get faster if you try, right? If you go from a place like a booth rent shop where you can spend an hour and a half on a haircut, to a commission shop, and now the time standard is 15 minutes or 30 minutes, if you try, you will get faster, promise, because you're going to get enough reps, right, to where and you're going to be around other barbers that are doing it. But if you just don't want to do it at all, then don't even go there. Don't even work there. Right? You just save everybody the pain, save yourself the pain and the stress. Just go somewhere where you can spend an hour on a haircut. And like I talked about earlier, clients. Like, if you're looking for a barber that can do a good haircut, then you have to expect that you're going to spend more time, because in the barber shop, we charge for time. There's exceptions to this rule, but for the most part, if you have a barber that is spending a lot of time on your haircut, that's going to come with a higher price, because that's taking away from time that we could be spending on a whole other client. So if I spend an hour on your hair, and in my business it needs $100 an hour in revenue to just keep the doors open, then the haircut's going to cost $100. If you don't want to pay that, then you go to a place that's cheaper, but realize that they're going to spend less time on your hair. That's the trade-off. Are you going to find exceptions to that? Absolutely, because you could be getting somebody who's really good, who's just getting started, that has a really low price. But for the most part, you're really going to have a hard time finding a barber that does a great haircut, that spends a lot of time on your hair, but also doesn't charge a lot of money. Doesn't really make sense. If you do find one, they're probably not going to be in business for very long, because the math doesn't work that way, right? And then for barbershop owners, like we talked about earlier, your pricing should reflect what type of business you want to run, right? The barbers, if they cannot deliver the services in the time that you need, then you have two options. You can either train them and get them to cut faster. So if you need them to do it in 30 minutes and they're all taking 45 or an hour, you got some training to do, right? Or you can raise your price so that they can spend 45 or an hour on it, and it still works for your business. Or you just replace them with somebody that can actually get the job done, because there's actually plenty of barbers out there that can do amazing haircuts in 30 minutes or less, right? But it's really simple from a barbershop owner perspective. Once you've done the math to figure out this is what my business needs per hour to pay all the bills, pay the barbers, pay yourself, and have some profit left over, it's non-negotiable after that, except for how do you want to get there, right? If you want to spend 30 minutes on a haircut, then make sure you charge for that. If you want to spend 45, make sure you charge for that. But don't make the mistake of like copying the guy down the street, because he probably doesn't know what he's doing either when it comes to his pricing. Like, do the math, figure out what your business needs, figure out how much time you want to spend on a haircut, and then charge appropriately for that. So those are the three types of shops. I wanted to share with you one advanced tactic before I wrap this video up, and which was what if there was a way you could appeal to all three, right? Because these are essentially three different types of clients, right? We got your budget. I just want to spend the least amount of money on my hair possible people. Then you got your regular, your people that are like, I don't mind spending a little bit more. I'm okay paying for quality. And then you got your people that are like, I just want the best. I want the best treatment. I want luxury. I want people to take their time. What if there was a way that you could appeal to all three? So this is actually something that we've been testing for the past few years, and it's been working really, really well. So basically what you want to do, what we've been doing, is we have three different versions of almost every service we offer. So we have our basic services, which are just the most stripped down, basic version of that service. And then we have our classic, and then we have our premium. The main difference is what's included and the time, right? So our basic services, for example, it's a 15-minute service. It doesn't matter what the service is. It's 15 minutes. Because if you look at my shop's service menu, all the timing and the pricing is the same. It doesn't matter whether it's a 15-minute beard trim, a 15-minute add-on. It's the same price, right? Same thing with our 30-minute services. It doesn't matter whether it's a haircut, a beard trim, head shave, face shave. And if we're spending 30 minutes on you, it's going to be this price, right? And then we have our premium option, which is a 45-minute service, right? Now there's differences in what's included in each, but what I'm telling you guys is that you can actually appeal to different types of clients within the same business model. This is at least what we've seen, right? We have three different versions of each service so that clients can basically choose how much they want to pay. If you don't have a super complicated haircut and you don't care about the hot towel and the razor, then at our shop, there's a cheap price option for you. We call it our basic services, right? It doesn't come with any, we're going to spend 15 minutes on you. It's going to look good, but you're not going to get any hot towel, no straight razor. And it's just, we're not spending more than 15 minutes on you, right? If you want a little bit more time, if you care about the hot towel and the razor and the things that come with that, then we have the classic option, right? It comes with the hot towel, the razor. We got extra time to style it if you want. And then if you just want the best treatment if you want us to spend the most time with you, then we have a premium option. This is for the people that, budgets are not a thing. They don't care about how much it costs. They just want the best possible experience, and they get the most amount of time. 45 minutes is what we spend on them. So there's actually ways that you can appeal to everybody within the same shop, with the pricing and the timing that you offer. So this is something that going into 2026, we're actually going to be expanding on. We're going to be adding more basic services, because this has been actually kind of a rather long test, probably a year or two we've been doing this. The first thing we did was we just had our classic services for a while, and then we offered a premium. I just put it on the menu as a price anchor to make our classic seem like a better deal, but people actually started booking it, and I was like, holy shit. If you just put a premium service that's something like 2 times more than your regular service on your menu, some people will actually book it. And I was like, whoa, I didn't think somebody would pay $80 for a haircut, which is what we were charging $40 at the time. But yeah, it's an easy thing to do. And even if nobody books it, it still makes it's called a price anchor. It makes your classic, your regular services look like a better deal, right? And then later on, more recently, we introduced a basic option, because this is basically a downsell. And the reason why I came up with this is because I was, $40 or now $45 is, for some people, that's a lot of money to pay for a beard trim. And I thought, well, maybe this will be a downsell, right? So if somebody doesn't want to pay a $45 for a beard trim, if we had a $25 option, then maybe the average ticket will actually go up, because now people that wouldn't normally get a beard trim are now getting a beard trim, because we have a downsell. So we tested it, and it turned out to be true. By adding a cheaper service, we actually increased our average ticket, because anybody that thought $45 for a beard trim was too much was now opting for the $25. We still have plenty of people that pay $45 for a beard trim and $69 for a beard trim, which is what we charge for the premium. The classic beard trim option, the more expensive one, is actually more popular than our basic. But yeah, so those are the 3 types of barbershops. Just to recap, we got the high volume, low price. We got the medium volume, low price, and our medium volume, medium price, and then we have our low volume, high price. So they all work. They can all work. I think the only problem is that when you have barbers that want to charge luxury prices but are providing, budget discount place type of service, right? If you're going to charge luxury prices, you need to provide a luxury service. And if you're charging luxury prices and you're not busy, then you're overpriced. You need to either raise your level of service or consider lowering your prices, because you will appeal to more people if you do that. Right? I think that the only reason that to raise your prices is because your business needs it, or it's supply and demand, right? So a lot of people don't start at the luxury. This is, I think, the misconception that maybe a lot of barber students have right now, thanks to social media. But most of the barbers that are charging $100 plus for a haircut right now didn't start there. They just had to keep raising their prices because they were so busy and they actually couldn't handle it, right? So you got to think about that. You got to earn that. Right? You don't just usually start there. You usually have to work your way up to that. But they can all work. So those are the 3 types of barbershops. Hope you found that helpful. See you in the next one. All right, that's our YouTube video for today. Let me get some water. You guys have any questions before I wrap up here? What's up, Angie? We're at 30, 35 in California. That's pretty good. The average haircut price right now in United States, according to my research, is $43. So we're actually a little above average. We're at 45 right now. But if you're under 43, then you're below average for the United States, which is not a bad thing. And just you're a good deal, you know. Well, yeah, I think the reason why so many people are trying to charge crazy prices out of school is social media, man. I think that's been more good than bad for our industry, but there's been some bad that's come with it for sure, which is that people just have unrealistic expectations. They want to skip over the grind that most of these barbers that are actually charging that and stay busy did. It's like you can absolutely charge $100 for a haircut for sure, but you gotta be able to justify that price in the sense that like your clients, if you this is how I know you're charging appropriately. If you're staying busy, right? If you're staying busy, then you're charging the right amount of money for a haircut, or you might be undercharging. But I don't know anybody that charges too much and is also busy. Right? Like I said earlier, there's people all the time. I see them on social media that are charging, you know, probably way too much. And the reason I know that is because you go on their booking link and it's empty. They don't even need booking. They don't even need online booking. You can just walk in. They can just be a walk-in based shop, right? Because they charge so much and probably provide so little that the people don't come back, right? Being being a social media influencer as a barber, having a ring light and wearing black gloves does not mean you get to charge $100 for a haircut. What will enable you to be able to charge $100 for a haircut is when you're so busy with repeat clients that you have to charge that much just so that your clients can get in with you the same month or the same week, right? Because you actually are so busy that you have to lose clients. So you have to raise your price. But I think that people, once they build up a certain amount of followers on social media, think that all of a sudden you make more or get to charge more. It doesn't work that way. You can't pay your bills with followers. You pay your bills with money. And the more people you get to come back as a barber, the more money you make. Your client don't give a shit how many followers you have. All they want is a good haircut, right? If you can't do that, then you probably, I don't know. You need to get your advice from different people, right? Because this is the way the real world works. I don't sell any courses on how to build your social media. The courses that I have are like how to price your services, how to hire barbers, how to cut faster. Some people think that just because you have 100,000 followers means you can charge more. I don't think so. I mean, that just tells me you're really good at making content, but not necessarily good at getting people to come back. Do I give people warnings before getting rid of them? And when do you go about it? Are you talking about barbers? Getting rid of barbers? Since it could be a privilege at your shops. Yeah, I just need to know who you're talking. Are you talking about getting rid of clients or barbers? Because if you're trying to get rid of clients, then that's actually pretty easy. You just raise your prices or become a lot more inconvenient. If you're trying to let barbers go, then I would always recommend you have multiple conversations with them and try to get them to improve. Right? Coach up or coach out is kind of the motto that I like to use, because a lot of times you can help people get better, And I will tell you too that if you do end up having to let somebody go, you will sleep a lot better at night and feel a lot better about it, knowing that you did everything you could to help them. So that should always be like the last step. Nobody, it's not always the case, right? But like nobody should ever be surprised if you let them go, right? Because at least that's how I think. That's how we try to be in our shop. Now that's not always going to be the case. So they do something super crazy. There's sometimes there's just no warning, right? Like if you steal, if you do something just real illegal or just really unprofessional, there doesn't always have to be a warning, right? But in most cases, if it's just like a performance thing or somebody's just like showing up late, I mean, that's just a conversation, you know? And then once you've had multiple conversations about the same thing and you're still not seeing improvement, then you have to have that conversation about maybe this isn't the place for you, right? But I'll tell you just from personal experience, you sleep so much better at night. It always sucks firing people, but you will sleep so much better at night if you knew that you did everything you could. Some people just aren't going to make it in your shop, but we try to get everybody to make it because it's way, just like with marketing and have you guys ever heard the saying like it's cheaper to keep an existing customer than it is to try to get a new one? Well, it's the same thing with barbers. Like it's way cheaper, way more profitable as a barbershop owner to keep the same barbers than to be constantly churning through barbers and having all this higher turnover. So if you're having a problem with one of your barbers, try to get them to improve before letting them go, would be my argument. It does suck, right? Everybody has potential, right? But you just have to understand that, you're probably the owner if you're asking me this, and owners think differently. All right, some people just want to go to work and do the bare minimum or not even do the bare minimum, right? And no matter what you do, no matter what kind of reward you offer, no matter how much you threaten them, they just still won't improve. And I'm just saying, like, protect yourself too, like, especially because this also, hopefully this never happens to you. But I've come close here, but it also is good to have these conversations and document them, have them in writing, because if anybody ever tries to sue you in the future, you have all this documentation that's like, nope, this is why they got let go, not because any other reason. It's because of what's written down right here, which they signed and dated, right? So another good reason to always have these conversations with people before letting them go. Think of it as insurance. Hopefully you never need it, but if you do need it, it's there, right? So you want to document these conversations when you have them with people, so that you can protect yourself in case somebody tries to come at you with a lawyer in the future. Like, nope, this is why they got let go, not for any other reason. Sorry you wasted your time. Thanks, sir. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? My throat's getting there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hop off soon. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you go over to my YouTube channel, Alex J the Barber. Hit subscribe. That lets me know that you guys like when I do this, do these calls for you, and that I should continue doing them. There's also a free community that I run that is literally 100% free, called the Barber Mastermind. It's right here. It's skool.com/barbers. It's 100% free to join, and all of the courses that I have are here. And actually, they're all free. You just have to unlock them by like engaging in the community. If you don't want to do that, I set it up just like a video game where you can level up in a video game, or you can just like buy the skins or whatever. I don't know. I've never spent money on a video game, but I think you can like buy your skins and stuff. So it's like that too, where if you don't want to do the work, you can either grind or pay, right? That's kind of the way it's set up. So that's my community. That's one way that we can stay in touch in between these calls. And that's also where you can see, like, if I reschedule one of these calls, because there's a calendar in there, the people in my community are the first to know, right? Because you can see exactly when I'm doing these calls on the calendar inside the community. But hopefully, guys, I've been enjoying this kind of new format that I'm testing, where I do kind of a live Q&A, do a live YouTube video, do some Q&A after. But if you aren't, let me know, right? Either way, I'm here for you guys because I already know this stuff, so I'm just here to give back. All right, guys, I'm gonna end it for today. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the new year, either next week or the week after. Talk to you later.